Should we should let's mention at the start, a guy that we both knew and has passed away, and I'm sure 99% of the fans listening or anybody that wasn't in the wrestling business, really particularly for about a 5 or 10 year period, about 20 years ago, may not have ever heard of this guy, but he was one of those unforgettable characters. Tom Cusati just passed away. We understand he was, I guess, in his late 50s. And honestly, that surprises me because he looked 50 25 years ago. And we're going to sound like we're making mockery of Tom, and we're not. Actually, we are, because that's what he would have wanted. He was a gimmick. He was a character. He didn't have a character. He was a character. He was a gimmick that you only find in and around the wrestling business. And when did he start running shows, Brian, actually? Because, of course, he was in New Jersey and in that area in the late 90s when I was up in the WWE, working for Dennis Corluzzo and booking third-party promotions. I'd booked some guys for him, but was it just right about that time? We always heard he inherited money from his mother, and that's how he spent money to run wrestling shows to be in the wrestling business.
He spent money to be in the wrestling business.
Yes, a lot of money. But it was about that same time, right? He hadn't been around very long. Or did he manage first as Royce Prophet, the rotund manager of Doom? Which came first, the promoting or the managing?
I'm not sure, because all of a sudden he just popped up at shows I was going to for Dennis in Yardville, New Jersey. I was hanging out with Dennis and Mark Carluzzo and Donnie B at these shows. And all of a sudden he was there, and he was so, I hate to say it, but like you said, he would want this. He was so weird and creepy. I always stayed away from him. Because he was like, again, he wore a suit at ringside, and he had his hair slicked back into a little bit of a ponytail, and he looked like a bigger, grosser version of Heyman at that time, when he would still wear the suit.
Yes, and now he wouldn't be a bigger version of Heyman now, because Heyman's pretty good size, but he'd still be a grosser version. Yeah, he was a bigger, he was shorter, dumpier, with not much more hair then than Paul has now, and then it was slicked back into ponytail. But also, and he was both pale and dark complected at the same time, because his natural skin pallor was very pale. He almost looked translucent, like he got a moon tan. But then on top of that, at various points but I'm serious. At various parts of his face would be like red, like the heartbreak of psoriasis red, right? Especially when he got out of breath and everything. So his face was both colorful and glowing and deathly pale at the same time. And, but it added to his gimmick, because he was he was a greasy manager you wanted to stay away from.
So there were a couple of things specifically I remember that I was around for. So you say that the story went around that he inherited this money.
Yes.
That's all I knew. That, and there were started to be stories that he was booking wrestlers for shows, but then there were no shows. It was more like, hey, let's just go hang out at the beach.
Well, I got one of those, but keep going.
So these stories start going around, and then the word starts going around that he's blowing all of his inheritance on whatever his wrestling exploits are, and no one really could figure out exactly what they were. So one night in Yardville, he's managing someone, and I'm in the back, and Donnie B gets on the house mic. And I know this is unprofessional, but it was Yardville, New Jersey.
Yeah, I've been to Yardville.
And all of a sudden, he's managing a ringside, and Donnie gets on the mic. Tommy, this is your mommy. Where's my money? I want my money back. He starts selling it. From ringside, he starts looking up at the sky and like talking to the sky. It was one of the most surreal things, because we didn't know how we would react. We did not expect him to react like that, but that was...
Well, he loved it, right?
Yeah, he thought it was a great rib.
Well, yeah, he started booking shows or running shows, and he would book some guys. And when I was doing booking the third-party guys, which was generally the list of guys they didn't, book on the main tour, or weren't being used too much or whatever, needed some extra dates, and among them were the Headbangers, Thrasher and Mosh, and Glenn and Jazz, and and those guys, they'd worked for Burt Prentice, and they were old school wrestling, so they could go and easily have spot show matches and not get hurt and whatever. So I'd book them wherever I could. That they didn't mind going anywhere. But every first couple times, they finally, I can't remember, I think it may have been Glenn that called me and said, "This Tom Cusati, he pays us, but he cancels." And I said, "Well, do you want me to keep booking?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Because then we go and we just hang out, and he takes us to dinner and he pays us like we wrestled." He said, "But this last one, he never actually had us go to a building. I don't think he was really running a show. He had us go to they went to his apartment or whatever." So then I'm pretty sure they were the ones, and I'm not sure they were the only ones. This might have been after they were done with the WWF, but he booked a number of guys, including the Headbangers, on like a weekend was it the Bahamas, or was it?
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
St. Martin?
Because it wasn't like Dawn Marie and what's his name? Lance Diamond. They were part of that too.
Simon Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when they got down there, it turned out there weren't any shows. He just said, "Hey, let's hang out on the beach and have a vacation." He paid them to come down and have a vacation with him. And I can tell you who he looked like at ringside. Royce Prophet. I'm not sure what the origination of the name or the gimmick was, but he looked suspiciously like the Penguin.
Yes, more than Heyman ever did. More than Heyman ever did. Had bad skin. Yeah.
But anyway, and now that we've just ripped this guy up one side and down the other, people are thinking, "You must have hated him." No, he was a fun guy, and he would have liked the attention.
I stayed away from him. Do you remember the story? And it was either Tommy Fierro and Billy Reel, or Tommy Fierro and the Inferno Kid, and I don't remember. But Tommy and Danny Germundo always hung out together. But I want to say Billy Reel was a part of this, where somehow they ended up, I want to say in Vegas, but it may have been somewhere else. They ended up in an apartment with Cusati, and he wouldn't let them leave, and he held them at gunpoint. And then finally, either one of them escaped or they got word to the cops. The cops showed up, and when they arrived, Cusati entered the door, and he had shaving cream all over his face.
Yeah, shaving cream. I remember that now.
Not like on his beard area. His whole face was covered in shaving cream.
Like they won't recognize me if I'm covered in... And now,
rest in peace.
Yes, peace. I know somebody out there. But wait a minute, what the fuck? They're laughing about the shaving cream. They buried the lead. He held him in his house at gunpoint. But it was just a minor thing with Tom, an issue that he had. I'm sure there was apologies given later on. But he didn't want him to go. He wanted company.
It must suck if you're on the way over there and you're like, "Man, I heard he took fucking Headbangers to the Bahamas. I wonder where he's going to take us." Took you to the couch, and then he took out his gun.
He took his hostage. Oh, God. Yeah. He took the Headbangers to Cancun. He took us hostage on the couch. Rest in peace, Tom Cusati. Another unforgettable character. A lot of these people, I'm telling you, in the wrestling business, as they go, they're going to be forgotten. Because you don't find people like this every day. And that's what we plugged, Burt Prentice's book that Scott Teal at crowbarpress.com just finished, because nobody leads a life like that. Or Tom Cusati, who I'm sure Burt probably figures out he'd rather have led the life he led than led the life Tom led. But some of these characters and personalities are going to be gone forever, and you're not going to be able to remember them unless we tell these stories, or, Brian, unless we have some type of picture to remember them by.
That's a great idea. I know a photographer in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, no, I'm not talking about just candid photography. I'm talking about a professional, hand-painted portrait, something that you're proud to hang on your wall in a place of splendor and magnificence, where you can show it off to people. As a matter of fact, where you can stand in your front door and you can call to people walking down the street and say, "Come in my house. And look at this portrait I've got on the wall. That's how proud you will be of it. You'll be having strangers trooping in and out of your house, muddying up your carpets, but every single one of them will say, God damn, that's a hot-looking portrait. Because, folks, if your family won't be together for the holidays this year, you can still bring them all together. Courtesy of our friends at Paint Your Life. Not only can they paint any picture that you can provide for them as a portrait by a world-class artist, but they can combine photos to bring the whole family together, even if they're not in the same place, or a cherished pet, or a special friend, or a place you like to go on vacation that you can't get to. Now you can just hang a picture of it up on the wall, and it's like looking out the window at your favorite place, whatever. At Paint Your Life, you can get a professional hand-painted portrait created from any photograph by sending a picture or pictures that you want to combine, and their team of world-class artists then provides that custom-made hand-painted portrait in about 3 weeks or so. It's the perfect holiday gift for somebody you love or for yourself. I wonder if Paint Your Life has done any candid photography, or in this case, candid portraiture.
Do you think they reject anything? Like, is there a rejection letter? Like, I'm sorry, ma'am, too much tit.
You know what? That would be, now if it was tasteful tit. If it was a tasteful tit, I bet you they'd go for it. And they have a team of world-class artists. And you know, these artists, they go to these art schools where some guy just comes in and just derobes and takes his laundry off, and there's his little tallywhacker whistling in the wind, and they sketch that in charcoal or whatever, so they're used to it. It's natural. It's the human body. Look at Michelangelo. Did that statue, I can't remember what they call it, of the guy with the tiny David with the teeny tiny little dick. He was the victim of shrinkage. Well, do you think that the Paint Your Life artists consider themselves above Michelangelo or however you, so therefore they'll paint your little David. They'll paint anything you send them, I bet you. As long as you pay them. If you don't pay them, they'll probably come and take that painting back or possibly repossess little David. Anyway, at paintyourlife.com, there's no risk, folks, except if you don't want to lose your little David, you better pay for this sucker. But if you don't love the final painting, your money is refunded. I'm sure they can refund your money easier than they can refund your little David. So let's just keep on the straight and narrow here. Guaranteed, folks, now is a limited time offer. Get 20% off your painting, 20% off. I say again, 20, and that means in addition to free shipping. And to get this special offer, text the word DRIVE, D-R-I-V-E, to 64,000. That's DRIVE to 64,000. Again, if you're texting DRIVE to 64,000, then the fine folks at paintyourlife.com will take 20% off your fine quality portrait and free shipping. And just make sure that you don't try to ship your little David.
Yeah, I don't know if they have to worry about that. Of all the companies to have the castration collection agency, I don't think it's Paint Your Life.
No, probably not. Do you think David was upset when he saw that statue and he said, fuck, Michael, couldn't you give me a little credit for a little more something than that? I mean, it's fucking microscopic. It's minute. I know it's cold weather. I'm standing here naked. There's a breeze. I've just been in the pool, so there's shrinkage. But still, I mean, and then look.
Maybe it was a good thing. Like, you know how, like, big women back in the day meant, oh, she's rich and plentiful. Maybe having a tiny dick back then meant something, too.
Yeah. It meant you couldn't get past all them rolls of fat on them big women to get to the good part. So, and then you've got two little grapes for testing. I mean, you'd need an extension, if anything, if all the women are predominantly plump and all the men are fucking the original inspiration for Vienna sausage, and you've got a, you've got a connection there.
These are two different times, two different centuries.
Two different times?
Yes. The plump women and the tiny dick David.
I don't know what time you're living in, but I think we've still got plump women and tiny dick Davids.
Paint Your Life. That's right.
Paint Your Life.
What's the promo code? Paint Your Life.
Drive
Text Drive.
Text Drive to 64,000.